it like having to grow up way too fast? For 2 years, I raised my parents and my gambling-addicted brother so I could ditch them when I finished school. My parents discovered boxed wine when I was 14 and never looked back. They'd stumble home from their restaurant jobs already drunk and pass out on the couch, leaving me to handle everything. Bills didn't pay themselves, and my older brother Victor was too busy being 23 and finding himself to help with anything. I worked at a grocery store after school and tutored kids on weekends. Every paycheck went straight to keeping the lights on and food in the fridge. I'd come home at midnight to do homework while my parents snored on the living room floor surrounded by empty bottles. Victor would breeze through occasionally to raid the pantry before disappearing to his friend's apartment where he crashed most nights. The thing nobody knew was that I'd been saving money on the side for college applications. Every time I tutored, I'd skim $20 and hide it in an old shoebox in my closet. Behind the winter boots nobody ever wore because we lived in California. I had almost $2,000 saved up, which would cover application fees for 10 schools plus SAT prep materials. It was my escape plan. My grades stayed perfect because they had to. I needed scholarships since my parents' credit was destroyed and they couldn't co-sign any loans even if they wanted to, which they didn't because they were usually too drunk to remember I existed. I studied during lunch breaks at work and in the bathroom during slow periods. My AP teachers thought I was naturally gifted, but really I was just desperate. Victor started coming around more often that spring. He'd show up when our parents were passed out and go through their wallets taking whatever cash they had left. I told him to stop, but he said they owed him for ruining his childhood. Like mine was going so great. He'd also started asking me about money and whether I had any saved up. I always lied and said every penny went to bills. One night I came home from a double shift to find my room torn apart. Clothes everywhere and my mattress flipped over. The closet door was open and my winter boots were scattered across the floor. The shoebox was gone along with $1,800 and my entire future. I knew immediately who took it because Victor was the only other person who knew where I kept my boots. I called Victor's phone over and over, but he didn't answer. His friend said he'd left for Vegas that morning with some guys from work. They were going to make it big at the poker tables. I felt like throwing up thinking about my college money being wasted on cards and slot machines. All those nights of studying and working just so Victor could pretend to be some high roller for a weekend. My parents were useless when I tried to tell them what happened. Mom mumbled something about boys being boys before passing out again. Dad just asked if I had money for more wine. I locked myself in my room and cried for the first time in years. Not just about the money, but about having a family that saw me as nothing but a paycheck and a maid. Victor came back 3 days later looking like death. His clothes were wrinkled and he smelled like cigarettes and failure. He tried to sneak into the house, but I was waiting for him in the kitchen. He couldn't even look at me when I asked about my money. Just kept saying he'd pay me back someday when things turned around. The same empty promise our parents always made. Did you lose it all? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Victor shifted uncomfortably and muttered something about bad luck and rigged tables. But then his phone buzzed and I saw the notification. A Venmo payment for $300 from someone named Vegas Glenn with dice emojis. My brother, the slots addict, had actually won something. That's when Victor made his biggest mistake. He got drunk that night to celebrate his losses and passed out in his car outside. I found him there with his phone unlocked and his banking app still open. The idiot had actually turned my $1,800 into almost $10,000. But instead of coming home, he'd blown most of it on bottle service and hotel suites, trying to impress girls who didn't care about him. His checking account still had $3,500 sitting there, more than enough for my college applications and then some. I took screenshots of everything, including his Vegas transactions and the gambling sites he'd used. Then I transferred the money to my account and left him a note saying we were even. He couldn't report it without admitting he stole from me first. I applied to 8 schools that week and got into 6 with full rides to 3. Victor tried to guilt trip me about taking his money, but I just showed him the screenshots of his $10,000 weekend. He shut up pretty quick after that. My parents never even noticed I was gone when I left for college. I hope Victor picks up the slack, cause they'll be out on the streets before they know it.